Imagine being just a child, a prince born into war, a boy who knew he was dying before he even became a man. Now imagine that same boy growing up to defeat one of the greatest military leaders in history. This is not a fantasy movie, Dot. This is not a legend. This is the real story of the king who ruled while his body slowly destroyed itself. A king feared by enemies, respected by allies, and remembered centuries later as the Leper King. Tonight, we travel back to the brutal age of the Crusades to discover the heartbreaking, inspiring, and unforgettable life of one of history's most extraordinary rulers. The year is 1161. The Middle East is burning in conflict. Christian crusaders from Europe controlled Jerusalem after the First Crusade, creating a fragile kingdom surrounded by powerful Muslim empires. Every border is dangerous, Dot. Every alliance is temporary, Dot. Every king lives with the shadow of war. And into this violent world, a boy is born. His name, Baldwin. He was the son of King Amalric, I of Jerusalem, and Agnes of Courtenay. From birth, Baldwin was surrounded by politics, religion, and power. But behind the palace walls, his childhood was already becoming complicated. His parents' marriage was later canceled by the church because they were considered too closely related by blood. Even though Baldwin remained a legitimate heir to the throne, his family became divided. His mother lived away from him, Dot. His sister Sibylla was raised separately. So while other children grew up with warmth and family, young Baldwin grew up inside the cold reality of royal duty. But there was one thing nobody could deny. The boy was brilliant. Baldwin's teacher was a famous historian named William of Tyre, and one day, during a simple childhood game, William noticed something terrifying. The boys were roughhousing, scratching and pinching each other as children do, but Baldwin never reacted. No pain, Dot, no discomfort, Dot, nothing. At first, it seemed strange. Then doctors examined him. The diagnosis would change his life forever: leprosy. Today we know leprosy is a bacterial disease, Dot, but in the medieval world, people feared it more than death itself. Many believed it was a curse from God. Leprosy slowly attacks the nerves and body, Dot. It causes numbness, weakness, blindness, and physical deformities over time. And there was no cure. Imagine hearing that as a child. Imagine knowing your body would slowly betray you while the entire world watched. Most people would collapse emotionally, but Baldwin did the opposite. He became stronger. In 1174, Baldwin's father died. And at just 13 years old, the sick young prince became king of Jerusalem. Think about that for a moment. Most 13-year-olds today worry about school, games, friends, or social media. Baldwin inherited a kingdom surrounded by enemies. Many nobles doubted him immediately. How can a dying boy rule a kingdom? How can a leper lead armies? How long before he collapses? But Baldwin shocked everyone. He studied politics, he listened carefully, he learned strategy, Dot, and most importantly, he refused to surrender to fear. Even as his illness worsened, Baldwin trained as a knight and military commander because he understood something terrifying. If Jerusalem fell, thousands would die, and standing against him was one of history's greatest leaders. Saladin was not just another king. He was intelligent, patient, religious, a brilliant military strategist. His dream was clear: unite the Muslim world and retake Jerusalem. One by one, he built power across Egypt and Syria. His armies grew larger every year. To many people, the Crusader kingdom looked doomed, and facing this unstoppable force was a teenage king whose own hands were slowly losing feeling. History should have forgotten Baldwin, but instead, he became legendary. Saladin invades the Kingdom of Jerusalem with a massive army. Some historians estimate tens of thousands of soldiers. Baldwin? He had only a small force, outnumbered, outmatched, and physically weakened by disease. Most kings would retreat. Baldwin chose to fight. And here's the unbelievable part. He personally rode into battle. Accounts say Baldwin was carried or assisted because of his illness, yet he still led his men forward. The Crusader army launched a surprise attack near Montgisard, and chaos exploded across the battlefield. Steel crashed, horses thundered, men screamed beneath banners and swords. Then something impossible happened. Saladin's army collapsed. The mighty Muslim force retreated in defeat. A teenage king with leprosy had defeated one of the most powerful commanders in the world. The victory shocked the Middle East, Dot. It shocked Europe. And Baldwin became a symbol of courage against impossible odds. But victories could not stop his disease. Year after year, the leprosy spread. His hands weakened, his eyesight faded, his legs struggled to carry him. Eventually, Baldwin became partially blind. Later, almost completely blind. Imagine ruling a kingdom while slowly losing control of your own body. Yet even then, he continued governing. He attended meetings, made military decisions, negotiated alliances. People around him watched in disbelief because Baldwin never allowed his suffering to define him. And that's one reason his story still touches people today. Not because he was perfect, but because he kept fighting, even when he knew he was losing the battle against time. There's something deeply tragic about Baldwin's story. He was admired by many, but he was also isolated. Medieval society feared leprosy. Physical touch became rare. Relationships became difficult. Marriage? Nearly impossible. While other kings dreamed of heirs and dynasties, Baldwin knew he would likely never have children. He watched healthy people plan futures he could never reach. And yet, historical accounts describe him as calm and intelligent, not bitter, not cruel, just determined. That emotional strength may have been greater than any battlefield victory. As Baldwin's condition worsened, a dangerous question emerged. Who would rule after him? The kingdom became divided into political factions. Some supported his sister, Sibylla, others supported rival nobles. Power struggles spread through the royal court, and Baldwin understood something terrifying. The kingdom might survive his illness, but it might not survive political division. So even while dying, he tried to protect Jerusalem's future. He crowned his young nephew, Baldwin IV, as co-king. It was an attempt to prevent civil war after his death, but fate had other plans. By the mid-1180s, Baldwin IV could barely function physically. The once active warrior king was now almost completely blind and severely weakened. The disease had consumed him, yet the kingdom still depended on him. Imagine the emotional weight of that. A young man barely in his 20s, forced to carry an entire nation on failing shoulders. In 1185, died at around 24 years old, just 24. A life filled with more pain, pressure, and responsibility than most people experience in a lifetime. And after his death, everything began to collapse. Without Baldwin's leadership, divisions inside the kingdom grew worse. New rulers lacked his discipline and intelligence. Then came disaster. In 1187, Saladin defeated the Crusader army at the Battle of Hattin. Soon after, Jerusalem fell. The city Baldwin spent his life protecting was gone. And many historians believe one thing: without fourth Baldwin, Jerusalem would have fallen years earlier. His courage delayed the inevitable. A dying king had held back history itself. So why does fourth Baldwin still fascinate people centuries later? Because his story feels human. He wasn't the strongest king. He wasn't the healthiest. He wasn't even expected to survive long. Yet he became legendary through resilience. His story speaks to every generation, to young people struggling with insecurity, to adults carrying invisible pain, to anyone fighting battles nobody else can see. Baldwin teaches us something timeless. Strength is not the absence of suffering. True strength is continuing forward despite suffering. That is why the image of the Leper King still inspires millions today. Not because he conquered the world, but because he refused to let the world conquer him. A boy who could not feel pain became the king who carried the pain of an entire kingdom. A ruler whose body failed him, but whose spirit never did. And centuries later, history still remembers his name, the Leper King. If you enjoyed this story of courage, sacrifice, and history, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more legendary stories from the ancient and medieval world. And tell us in the comments, do you think fourth Baldwin was one of the bravest kings in history? Until next time, farewell.